to you live right now on YouTube right now, whether you're listening to us on Spotify, after, wherever you consume your podcast. We appreciate you joining. Today, we're going to be going over a preview of the NFL free agents, a little bit of an outlook on the offseason, some things to expect here, and then we're also going to go over the NBA trade deadline because that is a week from tomorrow for when we're recording this, and that is really kind of when the NBA season starts because you find out if any big stars are on the move, what teams are going to pick up that crucial bench player that's going to be that 3 and D guy and come up huge for them in a playoff game like Xavier Tillman did for the Celtics last year. But we are here and we are in the kind of just witching hour now of the NFL season where contenders fall all the way into a Super Bowl hangover where maybe it takes them a year, 2 or 3 to get back to somewhat normalcy and when someone becomes a champion. But Sunday, it's kind of when it all starts to really hit you because you're like, damn it, it's Sunday. It's not football at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, no football at 8, 6, 7, whatever your time zone you're in. It kind of, the reality of only one more game being left sets in.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our punishment for that is the Pro Bowl. And that's what we'll be able to watch. And you think about it like this is the last game we'll be watching before the Super Bowl. And then after the Super Bowl, we're going to be footballless until the Hall of Fame game several months from now. It just feels like the NFL season goes it's a grind, 17 weeks. But then when it's gone, you forget how much you miss it when it's gone. All the times that we bitched about the Raiders and Giants games and the Patriots and Jets games, we we pray for these times at this point. We need football back already. But at least we have the Pro Bowl, I said unoptimistically. And they just released the Pro Bowl roster. They have the rosters ready. There's a lot of players who subbed out, whether due to injury or because they simply did not care. So the NFL Pro Bowl, the roster was officially announced. These are the guys that will be donning the helm for the NFL. Are you excited for the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, I'm excited to not watch it. I mean, it's flag football now, and I get why it's flag football because it's basically a non-contact sport. So it's like maybe we'll make it flag football now, but yeah, no, watching a bunch of millionaires run around in sunglasses and chains and then yuck it up, like not looking forward to it. I mean, it's fun when you're younger because you're like, look at all my favorite players playing together, but I feel like the Pro Bowl and like the Manning, Brady, and Roethlisberger era actually was competitive at one point when they were kind of all in their prime, similar to when the NBA actually took it seriously. When you'd have still high scoring games, when it came down to it, you'd have like Kobe and LeBron actually trying against each other. And like with basketball, basketball's like pickup. So it's like a game where you can play at the park. It's kind of normal, but like just watching flag football, the guy run around without any helmets and in sunglasses, like it's not super appealing to me, at least.
No, I would agree. It's just unlike with baseball, which they have it in the middle of the season, and unlike with the All Star break in basketball, where it splits up the season perfectly, there's not really a perfect way to do that with the NFL because there's such a short sample size each year. So, like figuring out when to play these games, it's just nearly impossible. Maybe it's during the off season, or maybe we just give away that we just don't even bother with this game. But ultimately, I mean, at least it's a game. We get to watch it. It's a All Star game, but it's easily the worst. I have the NFC roster handy here, and I'll mention the people who were supposed to be in and the players who are actually playing because I think that's kind of the headline here. Quarterbacks, we have Jared Goff. He'll be playing. Jaden Daniels was supposed to play, but he was instead subbed for Baker Mayfield. And
Okay,
Sam Darnold, QBs wise.
fine. I mean, I feel like that's kind of who the three best QBs in the NFC were this year outside of Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. Understand why Jaden Daniels doesn't want to immediately fly out like, hi guys, I just had one of the most heart crushing losses of my career. Like, yeah, I understand that for sure. So I feel like Baker, Darnold played well enough where it's like, yeah, if Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler his rookie season, you can consider Sam Darnold's season this year a Pro Bowl season, and Jared Goff may have been the best quarterback in the NFC this year. So
Yeah, I agree. No problems there. Running backs, Saquon was supposed to play. He has a much bigger game a week later. So he's subbed in for Bijan, and then Jameer Gibbs and Josh Jacobs. Personally, like those are the three best running backs in the NFC, so I have no problem there.
Yeah, no, that's fine there. And it's like um just sitting out because you're going to the Super Bowl. It's like obviously, but those are still pretty good running backs if we're subbing out Saquon for Josh Jacobs.
Or subbing out Saquon for Bijan.
Bijan? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he had a good
yeah,
year.
that's fine. Yeah. Then Kyle Juszczyk has his annual Pro Bowl nomination, and nobody contests that ever. Um, and then I feel
They
like
just
every
made
year
up
it's
a
like,
position so they can nominate him. No one actually plays fullback. There is no world in the NFL where we need a Pro Bowl fullback position when no one uses it. There's two teams that have a fullback. The Steelers when they had Derek Watt just so he could play with TJ Watt, and then the 49ers like, "Oh yeah, Kyle Juszczyk, the Swiss Army knife." It's becoming like Matthew Slater when he was with the Patriots at this point. Like, why is fullback still a position? How about we get like a Swiss Army offensive position so you could put someone like vote for someone like just a random player that's not necessarily a receiver, tight end, or running back. Then you could like, okay, who should go? Kyle Juszczyk or Taysom Hill? Because I think Taysom
yeah,
Hill's more deserving than him.
let's make it like a flex position. Somebody who plays everywhere, Be more exciting than just Kyle Juszczyk, who's got like what feels like 17 Pro Bowls, for fuck's sake. It's ridiculous. Wide receivers, we got J. Jeff, Amon Ra was gonna play. He was subbed out for Malik Neighbors. CD Lamb was gonna play. He was subbed out by Mike Evans. And then Terry McLaurin, he was gonna play. He subbed out for Jackson Smith and Jigba for wide receivers.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Evans was better at times this year than CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he missed a few games, but he still had a good year. Got over 1,000 yards, and if he played the full season, could have had comparable numbers. But Malik Neighbors as a rookie, I mean, he looked like like a Pro Bowl talent, but I don't necessarily know if he was a Pro Bowler this season.
Yeah, I mean, I respect Mike Evans there, and honestly, I don't have Malik Neighbors was arguably the best receiver rookie wise this year, so I don't hate it there. Jackson Smith and Jigba stepped up, but I bet if we really put our brain powers together, we probably could have found a better receiver core for this draft. But ultimately, they're subbing out; they don't want to play. Like it's an honor to be a Pro Bowler, but at the same time, it's really not. Ultimately, it's like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. And like the Pro Bowl enables people's arguments too. They're like, well, this guy was a this many time Pro Bowler. It's like, yeah, so was Mac Jones. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean anything. Like Pro Bowl should be like eliminated from any sort of like sports argument. Like that's not an argument. Like people throw it in there just so, like people hear a big number.
yeah. I mean, Mahomes wasn't a Pro Bowler this year, which caused a lot of controversy. And then like we'll talk about it when we talk about the AFC roster, but it's like I just if you could just have the basically like how what they do with the All Pros in the NBA, they announce the All NBA players, and they don't have to they don't have to play a game because of it. And then the All Star game is really just we have the brightest stars, we play their games, but it doesn't mean anything. I
Yeah.
just feel like I don't know. I just think the Pro Bowl playing the game now is pointless when everyone's just been getting hit by 300-pound linebackers the last fucking 4 months.
Yeah, and also in the NBA, no one subs out of the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah. Well, they don't play any defense either, so it makes it a lot easier. But it's just, yeah, it's ridiculous. Um, Tight ends, we got George Kittle and Trey McBride, both worthy, I think, of tight end for the NFC.
Yeah, no one subbed out there.
Yep. And then offensive linemen, I'll run through quickly. We got Lane Johnson was going to play, subbed out for Brian O'Neill for the Vikings. Penei Sewell subbed out for Taylor Decker, also of the Lions. Tristan Wirfs is going to play. Landon Dickerson was going to play offensive guard, but he was subbed out for Robert Hunt by the Panthers. Tyler Smith will play for the Cowboys. Chris Lindstrom for the Falcons. And then our two centers, Frank Ragnow, and then was going to be Cam Jurgens of the Eagles. So three offensive linemen for the Eagles was subbed out for Eric McCoy for the Saints.
Cool. Everyone understood that and they know why.
Everyone clap.
That's great to hear.
Please clap.
Pro Bowl offensive lineman. Now you're gonna be like, oh my god, we just signed this guy and he's a Pro Bowler on our team. That's
Pretty
that's
much.
great. The
Pretty
Bengals will
much.
see that and be like, "Ooh, look at this 38-year-old Pro Bowl left tackle. That'll fix our problems."
Yeah. The only thing I see there is like the Eagles have three Pro Bowl offensive linemen that are all
Yeah.
going to be starters, but they just weren't because they're in the Super Bowl. So credit to the.
Who
I
is
mean,
the who is the guy the Giants signed from the Patriots that was like a disaster and they tried to like put him at
oh,
tackle?
Nate Solder.
Yeah.
I think about Nate Solder far too much. And then defensively, we got defensive ends Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, and Rashawn Gary for the Packers, all of which are going to be playing in this game. Very cool. Interior
Very cool.
lineman, yeah, Jalen Carter. Obviously, he's got a bigger game. He's not going to be playing, but Leonard Williams with the Seahawks will. Dexter Lawrence for the Giants will be playing, and Vita Vea will be playing interior lineman. Very cool. And then linebackers, we got two Vikings. We got Andrew Van Ginkel, Pro Bowler now. Jonathan Greenard for the Vikings, also Pro Bowler, and Jared Verse, also a Pro Bowler. Other linebackers would be Fred Warner for the Niners, and then Zach Braun for the Eagles was supposed to be there, but instead we're going to have Bobby Wagner return as a Pro Bowler.
For the 100th time. Congrats, Bobby Wagner. 19-time
Congrats.
Pro Bowler.
Congrats. Then secondary, Jalen Johnson for the Bears, Byron Murphy, J.C. Horn, Devon Witherspoon, Xavier McKinney for the Packers, Buda Baker, and Brian Branch. Then the rest are just return specialists, including Cavante Turpin for the Cowboys and Brandon Aubrey for the kicker.
Yeah, two Cowboys for the kickers and the punt returner.
Yeah, not bad. Any issues with this? I feel like they got the defense relatively right, so no complaints there. Not really anybody
This
that was
one's not
subbed out.
terrible. The NFC's not
NFC's not.
that bad.
Yeah, but then we go to the AFC. This is when it gets laughable. Starting with the quarterbacks, okay? Initially, it was supposed to be Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. Three of the best quarterbacks in that league, numbers wise, this regular season. Josh Allen just got defeated for the fourth straight time for Patrick Mahomes, so he's going to go into his darkness retreat with Aaron Rodgers. Replacing him, though, is none other than Danger Russ. That's right, Russell Wilson is a Pro Bowler again.
Is he though? Is Russell Wilson really a Pro Bowler? How about Tua? I would have put the Tua at the end of the season there. Why is CJ Stroud not the Pro Bowler over Russell Wilson? Like he got his team to the playoffs. Justin Herbert isn't a Pro Bowler. Bo Nix, I know his spine is literally shattered. Or is Russell Wilson the only guy that's like, yes, I feel like I'd unlimitedly like to play. My desire to play in the Pro Bowl is unlimited. I love Pro Bowl, so I'm gonna go there and play and be another Pro Bowl. I went to the Steelers, and now look, I am Pro Bowl quarterback. Like, okay, is that
See,
why?
See what this is so much more harmful for him as a Pro Bowler this year than we can actually think of. First of all, he made 9 Pro Bowls with the Seahawks, and like that's great. But when you go back on his history, you're gonna say, "Oh wow, he was a Pro Bowler for the Steelers this past year," and that's gonna be like that's gonna encourage someone like the Raiders to go out and sign him. That's gonna encourage a team like the Giants, who maybe they miss out on their two quarterbacks they want, they're going to go out and get him. Like the Pro Bowl doesn't mean much to you and I, but for these league offices, they're going to say, "Well, Russell Wilson turned back the clock. He was 6-5, had 16 touchdowns this year. He is a Pro Bowler. We should take a chance on him." And he's going to go ahead and burn yet another franchise to the ground.
Yeah, the Giants. I mean, you only get this job one time, so you might as well make the most mid to bad decisions possible. Don't ever listen to your kids' advice, who are probably more tapped in than you. Like
Yeah,
sometimes, like the high schoolers and college kids are way more tapped in than some of these GMs.
yeah. And that guy, Joe Shulin, I don't know. I only get this job once. I'm not going to trade for Jaden Daniel. It's like, yeah, how's that working out for you, buddy? How was Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito?
Yeah, we know I didn't want to trade for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Other quarterbacks, Joe Burrow will be playing, and then Lamar Jackson also stepped out, probably because his pride was also hurt, losing to Josh Allen. Replacing him is Drake May of the Patriots. That's right. The guy who went 3-10, 16 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, QBR in the 80s. That is Pro Bowler Drake May. Is this going to be like, this is what worries me about him being a Pro Bowler. It isn't about Drake May and what he's capable of. But I remember very clearly about 5 years ago when McCorkle Jones donned the helm for the Patriots and he was their future. He made it to the Pro Bowl his first year because so many other quarterbacks bowed out, like Lamar and Burrow and Allen and Mahomes. He became a Pro Bowler. And for the next 4 years, Patriots fans believed that they had a Pro Bowl quarterback, when in fact, they did not. Now, I think that Drake May is going to be better than Mac Jones. However, this could be a curse of the Patriots potentially, that their quarterback becomes a Pro Bowler the first year because everybody bows out, and then they just go on to suck. That is what I fear for the Patriots. Is this going to be the curse of the Pro Bowl for their quarterbacks?
Maybe, yeah. But honestly, if we're like giving Russell Wilson a Pro Bowl nod and he didn't play the whole season, I feel like Joe Milton deserves a Pro Bowl nod for his last game versus the Buffalo Bills, where he turned it into what Anthony Richardson was supposed to be the whole time. So I felt like he deserves a nod for the Pro Bowl. And if we're talking about people having like the best season in franchise history, at least since the 80s, Aaron Rodgers still, at least QBR wise, was one of the best quarterbacks in Jets history, like going back to the 80s with the
That's
season he had this year. If we're just giving old people like Russell Wilson an excuse to be on a Pro Bowl team, like at least Aaron Rodgers played the whole season.
yeah, that's true. And that was the best Jets season of all time. Now, granted, he's comparing himself with Chad Henne and you know the Chad Penningtons of the world, the Christian Hackenbergs, but still being a franchise great is important, so that deserves some respect.
Yeah, I feel like with Drake May and Russell Wilson, I feel like they called Justin Herbert. He said no. They called Bo Nix. He's like, "Hey, my spine is fractured still." Um, and then there's really CJ Stroud. Probably he said no. It feels like Drake May and Russell Wilson were just the only guys who would say yes to do this.
Yeah, because nobody else in the AFC really fits the bill outside of everyone you mentioned there. It's like they could have called up Jameis for like the 4 games that he played just for entertainment and ratings, but that's about it. Yeah, not a great sight.
You should be like the
Uh,
coach or something, like head of make him head of PR for the Pro Bowl. Maybe then
just
people would watch.
just make him the mascot. That's all you got to do. He deserves to be the mascot of the Pro Bowl. Quite honestly, running backs. We had Derrick Henry was supposed to play. He was subbed out for James Cook, and then Joe Mixon and Jonathan Taylor. Fullback Patrick Ricard. We're talking about fullbacks. I guess it's just the Ravens and Niners. The only two fullbacks that exist are Pro Bowlers now. Patrick Ricard and Kyle Juszczyk.
The NFL needs at least two teams to have fullbacks, so that's why only two teams will have them, so we can put them on the Pro Bowl roster, and then they have to play a play. I mean, again, can we not just create a flex position and give it to Cordero Patterson?
Yeah, seriously. Where was he playing this year? Was he playing for the
Uh,
Steelers this year? Cordell Patterson.
yeah, Steelers.
I was gonna say he just seems to be somewhere at any time. He's always playing for a team. We just don't know where.
Yeah, he's turning into Vince Carter.
Yeah, really, honestly. Wide receivers, we had Jamar Chase, well deserving. Jerry Judy, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers subbing out him for BTJ for the Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr. That list, I think there's one person there that I wouldn't put, but you know who that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I like that BTJ got added though to that list, but who shouldn't be on this wide receiver list? I'm curious to know.
Well, I don't know. The league seems to believe that I'm a Judy hater. I feel like if you were to take out that one game with Jerry Judy, his season was fine, but it wasn't. I don't think it was Pro Bowl worthy. You take out the Jameis games, I don't know if he was deserving of the Pro Bowl, but I get it. It's okay. It's all right. No disrespect here. I'm a man of love, you know that. But yeah, I mean, Jerry Judy there, I don't know, man. I don't know if he was Pro Bowl worthy.
That's just Jameis. That's a credit to Jameis Winston though for turning him into a Pro Bowl receiver though. If you think about it.
Reason number 10,000 why Jameis Winston should be playing.
He made Jerry
1,000%.
Jeudy a Pro Bowler. That's crazy.
That's insane. Some idiot's going to sign Jerry Jeudy because of Jameis Winston. So thank you.
The Giants.
The Giants or the Patriots.
Probably, yeah. I could see that. Or the Jets.
Bad organizations will sign him. And then tight ends, we had Brock Bowers who'll be playing. Travis Kelsey was going to play, but now Jonnu Smith will be subbing in for him.
The legend. Yeah, John Smith having a career year this year. Like, he was fine. And he had some like good plays with the Titans, and then he had like never really broken past 450 yards when the Patriots had signed them. He wasn't like a high yardage receiver, and then suddenly out of nowhere, he has the best year of his career with the Dolphins. For some reason, Tua just loved Jonnu Smith for no reason.
You know what's hilarious about Johnny Smith? His career with Tennessee was not overly crazy. He just had a lot of touchdowns the year he got signed. He signs with the Patriots. He goes to the Falcons and immediately has as many receiving yards in one season with the Falcons when they have Kyle Pitts there than he did with 2 seasons with the Patriots. And then this year, he doubles both the Falcons and Patriots totals with the Dolphins. He was just the guy. When everyone else was thinking it was Tyreek or Jalen Waddle or Devon Achane, no, Johnny Smith.
How
That
many
was on.
yards did he have this year?
He had nearly 900.
How old is he? He's like
Johnny
had a
Smith.
career year in year like seven, 8.
This is year 8, yeah, and he will be 30 this upcoming year.
What? So
Yeah,
he
he's
waits until
29.
29. What is this, a contract year? I mean, my
I
God,
don't know.
Johnny Smith coming out of nowhere this season in Miami. And there's so many games where I was kind of laugh, just texting like, look who's showing up on red zone like multiple times today. But it felt like, yeah, now that I think about it, it's like his name was called a lot in Miami. It's funny. But like, I don't know. Maybe it seemed like I feel like he'd be a really good fit on Cincinnati or Houston next year. If I'm the Texans, I go hard after him because if you can
Yeah.
pair him with Dalton Schultz and then you have Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell there, get a squeeze another year out of Mixon, but draft a running back this year, hopefully. Because for some reason you still have uh, that terrible rookie on your team, Damian Pierce.
Oh yeah. Whatever happened to Damian Pierce? We don't know. Yeah, Colin John Smith's number. I think it's a contract year. I think it was a 1 year deal, so we'll see him get signed somewhere. I like those two spots there. Or if they want to give another weapon to Jaden Daniels, then go out and get him Johnny Smith. Why not?
Yeah, he'd fit
And
there. Just
then
go up and down the East Coast. Literally go New England, Miami, Washington.
Tennessee, technically, we love it. Offensive lineman, we got Deion Dawkins. Was going to be Laramie Tunsil. Now it's going to be Ronnie Stanley. Rashawn Slater. Guards, we got Quentin Nelson. It's going to be Joe Tooney and Trey Smith for the Chiefs. They're not going to be playing. So we got Joel Pitonio and Isaac Somalio for the Steelers. And then centers, we got Creed Humphrey, who was going to play for the Chiefs. He's not going to be. They got Connor McGovern. And then Tyler Lindenbaum for the Ravens.
Wow, what a
Offensive
great
lineman.
list. I think they nailed it.
Yes. No complaints. Offensive line, very cool. Very good at shoving, they are. And then how about defensive ends? We got Miles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby was going to play. Now they got Daniil Hunter in there replacing him. I feel like Daniil Hunter's a solid replacement for Max Crosby. He played well for the Texans, pairing with him with Will Anderson, so I respect it.
Isn't this in Vegas though?
Yeah, I think.
Like Max, you live there, or is it in Orlando?
Um, where is it? I thought it for the longest time it was in Florida or not in Hawaii. I don't know why they changed it.
Hawaii. Yeah, that was cool because it was like a free vacation to Hawaii for them. You
Yeah.
get put up in a hotel room. That was part of the experience. It feels like, they tried to change it up with like the skills competition, but it feels like they should have kept doing it in Hawaii. Like I thought that was cool.
Everyone thought it was cool. Now it's like, why the fuck are we going to go to Vegas for
We should
this?
try
We've
it in
already
Alaska, see who shows up.
nobody's going there.
In the middle
That's
of
hell.
winter, February in Alaska. There's probably
Yeah,
no daylight right now.
let's just destroy everyone's ACLs. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
And then interior lineman, we got Cam Hayward, Chris Jones was going to play. Now we got Quinnen Williams for the Jets. We got Matabuke for the Ravens. He's subbed out for Jeffrey Simmons for the Titans.
Good players. I like Quinnen Williams just keeps Quinnen Williams and Cam Hayward. That's like an old interior, I feel like. Him, Jeffrey Simmons is a little bit younger than both of them, but Quinnen Williams and Cam Hayward are both like 57 years old at this point. They're about to start collecting Social Security and taking out their required minimum distributions, and they're still out here as Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's an old ass interior lineman. Then linebackers. This is when it gets for me. It gets interesting. Got Nick Bonito for the Broncos. Sure, respect. T.J. Watt was gonna play. Subbed out for him was Kyle Van Noy.
No, no,
Yep, yep.
go away.
And then the Chargers, Khalil Mack, replacing him is Joey Bosa. And then other linebackers, Zaire Franklin, and then Roquan Smith subbing out. Roquan Smith is Patrick Queen, former teammate for Roquan Smith.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Patrick Queen had a nice year this year. Nothing too crazy to get excited about, but yeah, I feel like that's a good linebacker core.
For me, I think the only guy that I would shout out is Kyle Van Noy, simply because I'm like, it feels like every time I look up, Kyle Van Noy's playing somewhere else. And if I look at his career, I'm right. I mean, he played for the Patriots, played for the Lions, played for the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Ravens. Feels like every time I look up, he's playing for a new team. Now, he played well this year. Like, he had 12 and a half sacks. So, no disrespect, but I just feel like that name, of these other guys that are here, I feel like he sticks out a little bit.
Yeah, he definitely sticks out. Kyle Van Noy's kind of just been ring chasing ever since he left the Patriots, though.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like,
true.
maybe I can help the Chargers take them to the next level. Miami was a shit show, and then he's just ring chasing now with Baltimore. What is he going to be on Houston next year too?
Maybe Cincy. Who knows? And then a secondary, we got Derek Stingley, Patrick Sertan, Marlon Humphreys, Denzel Ward, Minka for the Steelers, Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James. That will make up the AFC secondary.
Yeah, that's a nice secondary for the AFC. Minka kind of fell off towards the end of the year, so maybe I would have subbed him out, but everyone else on there deserves to be there.
Yeah. And then punter, well, kicker, we have Chris Boswell, who outside of Brandon Aubrey is the best kicker in football. And then Marvin Mims for the Broncos. I feel like him and Turpin, the way that they were playing all season, they're deserving of the Pro Bowl. But that's the Pro Bowl roster. A lot of sub outs. I don't know if Drake May should be there. I don't know. Kyle Van Noy, I have my issues with. And then that guy in Cleveland, shame on Jerry Judy. But you know what? Respect to all. Good for them for making the All Star game.
Yeah, good for them for making the All Star team. And then there's also, you know, the teams this year that made the playoffs, and it can be tough to get back next year. But at the same time, it is the NFL. Your fans have an expectation for you to come back and win. So we have here just a article ranking every single team's likelihood to have a Super Bowl berth next season who lost in the playoffs this year. So it's ranking the 12 teams not playing in the Super Bowl, who is most likely to make it to the Super Bowl next year. And to kick off the list at number 12, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe not last place, but they're deserving of being at the bottom for sure, especially with quarterback situation. Like that situation's a nightmare. And yeah, they'll go 10-7, but they're going to lose in the first round again. So I'm fine with them being at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think with the Steelers at the bottom is exactly what you said. They'll be 10-7, but does anyone actually expect them to get to the Super Bowl? Like, absolutely not. Like, they can't compete with top tier NFL competition. And at the end of the year, they always fall off. They never have momentum going into the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin, like, he has his Super Bowl ring, and he's just going to see how long being an above average but terrible playoff coach can take him, and we'll see. But they haven't been to a divisional round or a conference championship in a long time now. I believe the last playoff win was 2014, 2016.
2016 was the last time he won a playoff game.
Yeah, so we're about to be going on 10 years, a decade without a playoff win for Mike Tomlin. So at number 12, as far as teams most likely to get a Super Bowl berth who lost in the playoffs, I think the Steelers are great at number 12 there. And then this article has the Broncos at number 11.
Mm, I mean, I guess I see the reasoning, but I also think that they have Sean Payton there and they have Bo Nix, who seems to be the guy. So if they can go out and get weapons, then I feel like there's other teams on this list that are in a worse position than the Broncos. So although I do think they should be at the bottom of this list, I don't think they should be at number 11. I would say maybe 10 or 9.
Yeah, because do you think they're less likely than the number 10 team Tampa Bay to have a Super Bowl berth, or is Tampa Bay kind of similar to the Steelers where you think maybe they'll make a divisional round but I really can't see them getting past that point next season?
I guess what's the Bucks have the advantage of that the Broncos don't is the Broncos have to go through the guillotine of the AFC, where the Bucks like they got the Lions there, the Commanders and Eagles, and then maybe the Rams. But I just think the Bucks have the same problem that the Steelers have. They have a low ceiling. Baker, I think at their peak can make bring them to an NFC title game, but I don't think they'll ever make the Super Bowl with Baker nor win it. So Bucks should be below the Broncos in my opinion.
Okay, so far we have the Steelers at 12, the Broncos at 11, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 10, and then at number 9, Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I would put the Vikings lower than the Bucks personally, because at least the Bucks have Super Bowl pedigree. The Vikings are perpetual chokers. That is why their colors are purple because they've been choking for 60 years, and they don't know their quarterback situation. Like Sam Darnold was their golden goose this year. You almost made the 1 seed, and you almost won a playoff game. Congratulations! But at the end of the day, you crumbled when it mattered. Sam Darnold's going to leave you, most likely, and you're going to have a rookie quarterback who's coming off of a season ending injury to don the helm when you have to deal with the Bears with Ben Johnson, the Packers, and the Lions. Like, you have a gauntlet of a division, and you got worse, and you're probably going to continue to get worse. So the Vikings would be below the Broncos for me and the Bucks because I think that they probably won't even make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, no, if you look at the Vikings, it's like you really look at those purple uniforms and exactly what you said. There's a reason why they're purple. It's like the Vikings were the original I can't breathe before it was cool.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, outside of the Bills, they're the only other team to lose 4 Super Bowls and not win one. The
Yeah,
chokers. I think back to Brett Favre and that infamous interception in the NFC title game. Like the Vikings, they just break their fans' hearts, and they're going to keep
yeah.
doing that.
They got wiped out too by they got wiped out by the Eagles. They almost took down everyone's favorite like childhood high school team. Like that kick that they missed
Oh
to beat
yeah.
the Seattle Seahawks. Another example of them being cursed. You lose to Case Keenum. You almost get the 1 seed this year, and then you just get absolutely annihilated in your last few games. And then you want to talk about bad luck? You drafted Sam Bradford.
That
Like Mr. The OG Derrick Rose without like him. And like when he went to the Cardinals, people are like, oh, like Sam Bradford would look like good at times. But he never really made it. So it's kind of like a white Teddy Bridgewater. And then you
honestly,
took
yeah.
Teddy too. And then he had a massive leg injury.
Yeah, you probably should, yeah. I mean, think about you have Sam Bradford, who was literally the definition of the IL. They should rename it to the SB for Sam Bradford list. And then Teddy Bridgewater breaks his legs while he's there. The only success you've had at quarterback the last 15 years was you had Kirk Cousins, who consistently brought you to the playoffs to lose, and then you brought out the dead corpse of Brett Favre essentially to be the savior for your team, and he broke your heart. And then you draft a quarterback this year pretty high at pick 11, and he dies before he even steps onto the field, basically. He's out for the season before he even plays a snap for you. Like, what voodoo magic is there in Minnesota? I don't get it.
Honestly, yeah. I feel like we don't bully the Vikings enough. I just realized that now, but
We can bully the Vikings.
we're taking a deep dive into Minnesota next week. I don't care. We're rescheduling everything for Minnesota. What the hell is going on there? And then at number 7, after the cursed Minnesota Vikings here at 8, we have the Houston Texans below
I
teams like the Chargers, Ravens, and Packers.
yeah, again, like the Texans, the only thing that you can really discredit them for is what exactly? Stephon Diggs was out. They had a pretty clunky season overall, but they still managed to win their division. They beat the Chargers convincingly, and they played a close game against the Chiefs. And it looks like to me when I watched the game against the Chiefs this past 2 weeks ago that they're not scared to face the Chiefs. I just think they were outmanned. But you get Stephon Diggs, maybe Jonnu Smith comes to your team next year. I think the Texans are still viable. They can still make the Super Bowl, I think. There's some teams ahead of them, obviously, but I think that they could still easily be in the mix next year. So I would put them higher than some other teams on this list.
Yeah, especially because the team in front of them is the Chargers, and it didn't even look close when they played. Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions, and I get, oh, Chargers didn't have any skill players. Neither did the Texans. They had the same amount of elite wide receivers. It was one to Lad McConkey to one Nico Collins, and then also, you had a consistent run game, and you had one of the number one total points defenses all year. If Justin Herbert didn't wet his pants and throw 4 interceptions, you really are more convinced that the Chargers with Justin Herbert have a better chance than CJ Stroud does of making the Super Bowl. Like, this is where this becomes like blasphemy
Comical.
at this point, to be honest.
It's comical for me because the Chargers, like, they can't get out of their own way. And not only that, like, the Texans are in the easiest division in the AFC compared to the Chargers have the Broncos, who are going to be fighting for you. You have the Chiefs, who are about to win potentially their third straight Super Bowl. And then the Chargers, who can't seem to get out of their own way half the time. They had the number one offense and the number one defense one year, and they missed the playoffs. This is not a team that you bank on them succeeding. This is coming from a guy who is a Chargers sympathizer more often than not, because I have plenty of friends who support the Chargers and how many times they break their hearts. They've been on the worst top five so many times because they're just complete dickheads to their fans year in and year out. Like it's like if you can believe in CJ Stroud, then why would you believe in Justin Herbert, a guy who has shown to be a playoff choker, choking a 27 nothing lead and then choking with 4 interceptions? Like I don't believe in anything the Chargers will do. I'll take the Broncos over the Chargers at this point.
Yeah, no, I would take the Broncos over the Chargers at this point. And honestly, the Steelers too. The Steelers have proven at least more consistency than the Chargers over the past few years, but like you have sympathy for the Chargers the same way that Darth Vader had sympathy for Luke when he cut his arm off.
Yes, exactly.
It's like I still need
Quite
to show
literally.
you, I still need to beat you in combat, still need to cut your arm off once in a while, but at the end of the day, we'll come around at the end, turn into the hero, but will you ever recover? Is the question. Are we just gonna build another Death Star that's gonna explode? Because that's what you keep doing. You're like, let's try the same idea again. Blows up in your face for the Chargers there. But Chargers are at number 6. And then this is where this list gets really weird. At number 5, they have the Buffalo Bills.
I'm surprised they haven't like the Bills. I would have thought they would have had them higher from that.
Yeah.
They put them at number 5. So I mean, the Rams are above them. That's weird. They
No,
have
the Rams were number 8.
number 8. Okay, well that makes more sense then. The Bills. I mean, like in the AFC, like I feel like it's going to be the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills, who are still the juggernauts. Like they still have the easiest division, arguably. The Jets are a disaster. The Patriots are in rebuild, and the Dolphins are on the verge of collapse. So, and you have Josh Allen, who the problem that he has is that he keeps running into the Chiefs, and he cannot beat the Chiefs clearly. Speaking of a team that fails 4 consecutive times, I mean, the tush push. I mean, if they succeed on more than half of the tush push plays, then that could be a totally different game. I would put the Bills higher. I think they deserve more respect than that. Like dropping them to 5, I think is honestly kind of rude. There's plenty of other teams that deserve to be below them.
Yeah. I feel like with this list, they're probably just I feel like now, like this season was like the last season where the Bills would have an excuse wouldn't have an excuse for losing. Like last year, like you had everything going for you, and this year was like, okay, it'll be historic if they lose. And now, like history can just like keep running up the score at that point. So with Josh Allen at this point, it's like maybe at this point in their article, they're like, yeah, we just don't think they can get past Kansas City, and unless Patrick Mahomes shatters his knee, we don't really see them being a threat to get to the Super Bowl because they still can't handle the Bengals if they get there either. So I feel like that's maybe like they probably just got bored in this one, so like, let's drop them to five. But agree with you; they should probably at least be in the top four above one of these teams who's in the top four because at number four they have the team that they beat in the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, Lamar hasn't beaten Josh Allen in the playoffs. And although I think the Ravens have a better team overall, Lamar has shown that he shrinks in the playoffs, where I don't know if we could put the same amount of pressure on Josh Allen. I don't think Josh Allen played a bad game against the Chiefs by any means. And if you look at his playoff stats, like he still plays well in the playoffs historically. Whereas Lamar, like his stats are considerably worse. Like I still think like Ravens might have a better team, but I think the Bills have more clutch postseason performers. So the fact that also they beat them in the postseason doesn't make sense. Like, where's the drop off there? Because Lamar can't beat Patrick Mahomes either. So I don't know. I mean, both of them I think should be next to each other on this list, but I think that the Bills should be higher.
Yeah, and then at number three, the some say spiciest team on this list at number three is none other than the Green Bay Packers.
No, no. And this is a guy, I believe in a thing called love. I do. But at the same time, this team, their defense, I'm not impressed with very much. Their offense, like, I like Jordan Love and I like Josh Jacobs, who might not even be there this upcoming year. Outside of that, like, we got to get realistic about the receivers. We're throwing to a bunch of B plus receivers at this point. It'd be like, oh, we have this movie with Emily Blunt. Like, cool, very cool. Like, they don't have like actual star receivers. Christian Watson is not a star receiver. He's a solid receiver at best. Like, we need actual players. Go out and get T. Higgins. Go out and draft a legitimate receiver. Like, it's great that you guys have Dontavian Wicks and like insert random Madden generated named player. That's what they have essentially. Like, the Packers, they're not going to be above the Bills or Ravens until they get a legitimate like star receiver, like a Devonte Adams, like a Donald Driver of the 2000s, or Jordy Nelson. They don't have a Jordy Nelson right now. They have Romeo Dobbs, which, by the way, does not move the needle for me. Why are they at three? That is kind of insulting to the Bills and Ravens, to be honest. And I don't even want to
Yeah,
know who's above him because like
I
Packer
mean,
should be lower for sure.
yeah, they don't have to go through the Chiefs, which is why I can understand that. And then Jordan Love was injured all season, and if he kind of wasn't dealing with injuries and didn't have all three of his top receivers out, I feel like that would have definitely been a better game versus Philadelphia. But he was definitely hurt at the end of last year. So if he's fully healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if they got to the Super Bowl next year. So honestly, for me, I'm fine with them at three above the Bills and the Ravens just because Jordan Love hasn't like shrunk, I guess, as much as Lamar did his first appearance in the playoffs, and then he was just injured all year, and they could never really find a rhythm. So I could definitely see them getting back. And the Packers in the past have been able to draft receivers, so they'll probably get another second round receiver this year.
Well, they need to, and then I'll believe them.
But yeah, didn't know you had such beef with Emily Blunt though.
I was trying to think. There was another singer I was trying to think of, but I couldn't remember their name, so I just added
Haley
another player.
Steinfeld.
Yeah, Haley Steinfeld. Yeah, pretty much famous for
And
being
then
Josh Allen's girlfriend.
and then at number two we have the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I'm fine with the Lions at two. I feel like this was their year to do it. So now that they have, like, they're gonna lose Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and they have some key signings they're gonna have to figure out. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a lot harder than we think. I think they're still gonna be really good, so I'm fine with them being high, but I have my doubts for the Lions at this point, especially after this loss. Like, at number one, I can assume who they have at one. That team's going to be a problem, but they're fine at being like top three. I think they deserve to be there.
Yeah, I think the Lions this year, the biggest they made mistake they made was overachieving with 16 players on IR. And when you have all those players back on defense, even with losing Ben Johnson, people want to seem like Ben Johnson was the head coach of the team and they just lost their coach. Like it's still Dan Campbell. He's still the one that has the identity of this team. And maybe losing Aaron Glenn is a blessing and disguise for this team. So I do think they should be right around there, 3 or 2. Maybe 2 is too high, but with their entire defense essentially coming back, I definitely think they'll be a force to be reckoned with next year still. So yeah, I
For
think
sure.
2 is fine for the Lions, but we'll see.
Sure.
Um, and then at number 1, Washington.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, and also some recency bias. But I mean, at the same time, Jaden Daniels showed to be a playoff performer. He showed to be uh, arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league. And we look at that conference, like you have the Lions there, you have the Packers there, and then the Rams are getting older. The Eagles, will there be a Super Bowl hangover? All the other teams that made the playoffs this year, I think they can beat if they can improve their defense. And then like some teams that could emerge, like, am I supposed to trust the Bears after what happened this year? I don't know if I can trust them, even with Ben Johnson. The Niners, will they recover? I think they're still old. They're probably not going to be there. So I think the Commanders have a great shot to make the playoffs, the Super Bowl. And I think if they just had a better defense, and they could stop Saquon in the conference championship, they might have just been in the Super Bowl this year. So I definitely think they deserve to be one. There is a lot of hype there. They have a lot of work to do still. They still need to get a better defense. But from what we saw year one, like I think Jaden Daniels is that guy.
Yeah, and I think with this list too, what they did was they put the 3 best teams they thought outside the Eagles next year in the NFC, and they're like, we don't think Lamar or Josh Allen's beating Mahomes next year. We really don't have confidence in either of them, so we're gonna put you 4 and 5, which makes sense.
I don't think I can blame them at that point. I mean,
Yeah,
between them, they're what are they? 0-6 against Mahomes in the playoffs now.
yeah. No, if
Yeah,
we're still like stuck on, Star Wars analogies, like when the new trilogy came out, like we were in our A New Hope phase with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, and then we kind of got the 8th episode and everyone was like, what was that? And then we got the most recent episode with Rise of Skywalker, and everyone was like, why did you come up with the title for the movie before you wrote the script? And then the title of the movie doesn't even make any sense. What Skywalker is rising? And then with Lamar
yeah,
and Josh Allen this year, it's finally like, okay, are either of these people gonna do it? Because now I don't have too much faith in you. You gave me a Rogue One here, that was nice, but Solo was fine, I guess. But
yeah. I think that's a good analogy. Yeah, I mean, it was exciting when they released the new trilogy. It was exciting when the Bills had the 13-second game. And then last year, they had their chance with what we could use the analogy for Last Jedi. And then they fell flat. And then this year, like, not that it was like a blowout, but it just felt like they never had control. It was deflated. Josh Allen was schizo at certain points during the game. Like, they lost their chance. And now at this point, like I don't know if I have any more faith in the Bills. As a guy who wants to see the Bills succeed, wants to see Lamar succeed, wants to see Burrow, like I want to see these other guys come for the crown, but it feels like all of them are too scared to do so. And unfortunately for Joe Burrow, his organization can't get him a defense and can't get him an offensive line, so he's not in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean the 3 guys that could go after the crown in the AFC, like they just aren't coming to get come and taking it at this point.
yeah, so yeah, I feel like that's fair because it gave him a lot of opportunities. Another league that's coming to the for the crown, I guess, where we talk about football being over, then the NBA playoffs is over like in June. So you just have this gap here from July to August where everyone's like, huh, I don't know what to watch on sports. And remember when we went out and they had like slip and slide on ESPN where they're trying to like
Hmm.
run up the slip and slide? Like
Yeah,
that's what's on in the summer when you're at a sports bar, like slip and slide. So there's definitely a big
I remember
void.
that.
There's definitely a big void to fix there, and it's just like all of these baseball games that there's so many on you can't even pay attention to. So it's kind of oversaturated. But there's another league that could really take it to the next level. And then Cam Newton came out, made a wild prediction that he thinks the WNBA at some point is going to overtake the MLB. You're an MLB fan, I would say. What were your thoughts on Cam Newton saying that?
I think like I understand why people think it's crazy, but I actually don't think it's that crazy. Because if you look at the excitement that we got with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark this year, if they can continue getting these top college prospects and they can become superstars in the WNBA. We saw the WNBA grow pretty precipitously this past year. So I do think that there is an audience there. I don't know if it'll ever be as big as the NBA personally, but when we're contending with baseball, a sport that perpetually does its worst to make it more exciting and more interesting, like baseball is not the I think of all four of the major sports, like baseball is easily the worst run with how they could make the sport more exciting, i.e., I don't know, give people steroids again. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that a lot of people were pretty upset about this take, but I actually agree with him. Like, if they get more Caitlin Clarks into this league and they get more Angel Reese's and more personalities, something that baseball is desperately lacking, then I think they could do it before the 20-year mark. I think they could do that in the next 5 years potentially.
Potentially, yeah, and it's not like the MLB had 100-year head start on them either.
Yeah, no kidding.
You had a
The thing,
century to figure it out, and you keep getting worse. Like the MLB was created in what 1913?
oh, further back than that, buddy, 1865. It
What?
was invented in the Civil War, dude.
It was invented in the MLB was invented in the Civil War.
Well, the actual like the record keeping sake would say 1901, but baseball started in the 1860s.
God.
Yeah, it goes back. It's an old sport. Well, here's the thing. Like the thing that's going against baseball compared to all four of the other sports is that football's evolved. Right, it's more offensive driven than it was before. The NBA has player mobility, which makes the offseason exciting. And then hockey is just a more exciting game to watch for a lot of people, even if I don't follow hockey as closely as I used to. Baseball, all of their fans are old and they want to see the old way of baseball. Everyone bitched and moaned about the pitch clock, even though it made the game better. All the fans are fossils and they want to see dinosaurs play the game. So unfortunately, like baseball doesn't evolve, whereas the WNBA can evolve because it's subsidized by the NBA, and there's plenty of interest in the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Cameron Brinks and all these other stars that have emerged. Whereas baseball, their biggest superstar will bat 3 times a game. Like that's not going to do it compared to Mahomes, who has the ball every play, or LeBron, who has the ball every play, or in hockey, give the puck to, I don't know, it's been a while. Steven Stamkos, for example. Baseball, the best player is going to bat 4 times a game, and if he strikes out, oh, got another 160 games to play. Like, I do think that WNBA will be more popular. I think it's already
Yeah.
approaching it.
Yeah, it's already approaching it, and it's still a young league. And like the thing with the WNBA was this is like I feel like the first year where I heard someone say I want to watch the WNBA.
Yeah,
Like this is the
I
first
agree.
year where you actually have people interested in it, and you were able to create some drama. And people are like, "Oh, they're just trying to make Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese the face of the league." Like, yeah, it's
Because they are.
called storylines, and well, yeah, Angel Reese for sure definitely isn't as good because she can't make layups, but for like the storyline of it with Angel Reese, like people still talk about her. She's still a star. You're seeing her around places. Like that's what you're supposed to do to get people talking about your league, to generate revenue, to get them ad deals here. So I definitely think it's something where it definitely can evolve above it once the talent gets better. And I think it will eventually. You'll still have some hilarious like blooper reels, but that's kind of the magic of the WNBA where you have the finals and they're airballing layups. But
Yeah.
I definitely think at least storyline wise and being in the news and talked about, the WNBA will be able to generate more buzz than baseball. And people are just quick to hate on the WNBA. It's like there's nothing wrong with it. Like I personally don't watch it, but like to say that there's no chance that it can overtake baseball, like I don't know. I feel like it can with like this year being like the first real year where they actually tried to market it. It feels like the first year they put in an effort to actually market their stars. Now
Yeah,
people know Cameron Brinks, Kelsey Plum, Caitlin Clark. Like they actually know names now, and they're actually more mainstream than they were before. And now it's kind of turning into a pop culture thing. And all publicity is good publicity. So if you can get a bunch of people like, oh, the WNBA, they can't even dunk. It's like so. I think basketball's still fun if people can't dunk.
yeah. I think another thing that's going for the WNBA that we aren't going to see, it's going to be a delayed response is like, okay, so this is the first year that the WNBA has been successful. The baseball world has existed since the 1800s. And so, like, when you were a kid in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, you were trying to get signed by the Yankees or Dodgers or Red Sox or whoever. And you had people who were children growing up to trying to be baseball stars. A lot of women who have been very good at basketball have not pursued a career in the WNBA because there's no money there. Like you're going to make like $70,000. Like you're going to make a salary that with the wear and tear on your body, like is it worth it? Nowadays, like especially when their collective bargaining agreement increases and you can make millions of dollars, all the girls that were going to D1 schools and just getting a degree in nursing, they're not going to do that anymore. Now they're going to pursue a career in the WNBA, and those superstars, like I bet in the next 10 years we're going to find a player better than Caitlin Clark because they know from the start, like from when they're in middle school till now, that they're trying to become professional female basketball players. So like I think it's absolutely like we're 10 years away from seeing like a pretty great product, I think, for the WNBA. Maybe not NBA standards, but we're still going to see like a lot of great players come in, especially over the next few years.
Yeah, and that's kind of the appeal of the NBA too. It's like it's a status symbol as well. So now like some women like can see it now as a status symbol where before, let's be honest, there's kind of a stereotype that it was kind of just a lesbian league before.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the WNBA, it's got some room to grow for sure, but I do also think that it will surpass baseball, and I'm going to guess in like the next 10 years, honestly. I think 20 years is a bold take. I think Cam Newton's
Yeah.
getting a little too much hate for this.
Yeah, I think so. And Cam Newton has some crazy takes and he's kind of like loopy recently. But I think once in a while you can pull it out. But people are like, oh, just because you're a retired athlete doesn't mean you should talk about other sports. It's like, yeah, most athletes, even when they're retired, though, it's like that doesn't give you a better opinion just because he retired from a different sport than he played, nor me.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I agree. Um, Speaking of basketball, we have quite a lot of news coming around the NBA at this point. We have the trade deadline in about a week's time. We'll see potentially names like Jimmy Butler come around. Apparently, the Kings are interested in trading De'Aaron Fox and finally ending that relationship. And then there were some moves that were made this week with D'Angelo Russell leaving the Lakers. They're making moves, but trade deadline's in full effect. The NBA, as the NFL is about to end, the NBA is heating up. So, NBA trade talk. What are some of the rumors that are flying around, and where do you want people to go?
Yeah, so rumor right now is De'Aaron Fox getting traded to the San Antonio Spurs in a situation where the Spurs would send like Chris Paul. They have some other players there like Shochan and Johnson on their team where they have a lot of nice role players, but De'Aaron Fox and Wemby looking to pair them together, and then you'd go out there and try and get another forward type player next year. But right now, De'Aaron Fox looks like he's on the way out of the Kings because he turned down that extension. He's just sick of Sacramento. Sacramento is just one of those franchises. It's like playing for the Chargers. It's like playing for the Vikings, where you're never really gonna get it done. And for me, I feel like the Spurs are a team that makes a lot of sense for De'Aaron Fox to go to. So that's one rumor coming out of Sacramento. What would you think of De'Aaron Fox getting traded? And if it was San Antonio, do you think it'd be a good fit?
Absolutely. It'd be a fantastic fit. When I heard him getting traded, potentially, I thought of the Spurs immediately. Simply like, if he can be paired with a big man, then I think that's where he's going to complement his game well. He's a great facilitator. He's explosive. He can drive the paint. I think he'd be a great fit for the Spurs. And the Spurs need a second star. Like Chris Paul, He's on his last legs. He'll probably retire by year's end. So the Kings, they want to move off the contract and fully rebuild. Then I think it's a good move for them. The Spurs would be a good fit. I do think that, another team like maybe the Sixers want to add another star. Maybe you can consider them potentially. But ultimately, like they should want to pair him with a big man that's going to be successful. So that's where I think he'll thrive. And I think staying in the Western Conference will be the best bet for him ultimately.
Yeah, another option too, outside of the San Antonio Spurs, would be the Orlando Magic. Magic are a rising team here, have Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, but they kind of do need that point guard and facilitator there. Do you think it is like that meme of the boomer putting on the same T-shirt that he had on that he was wearing, where he opens it up if you're going from Sacramento to Orlando? Or do you think that he could actually help this team maybe get to a second round? And I feel like if De'Aaron Fox was on the Magic, they could definitely beat the Knicks, at least with him and Paulo versus Brunson and Towns by the time they're injured and fouled out.
Yeah, I think the Magic would be a great fit too. Because, I mean, again, you pair him with a big man, and then also we're talking about a Magic team that I felt played pretty competitive postseason basketball this past year. And I do think that they're one piece away. I don't really love their role players too much, but I think Paulo Branchero is a beast, and so is Franz Wagner. So you pair him with them, then I think that they have a pretty nice 1, 2, 3 punch. So I think, whether they face a team like the Hawks in the first round or a Pistons team that's competitive right now, like I think that they're in a situation where I do think that they can beat uh, their first round matchup. I do think they can beat the Knicks, or maybe they sneak into that 5 spot and they face a team like the Pacers. I think that they could play a competitive series against the Pacers.
Yeah, no, they can definitely place a competitive series against the Pacers. So I definitely think if you get lucky, you get hot into the playoffs, this could be one of the teams that goes on a Cinderella run. And then the last team would just be the Rockets. You're essentially like, we don't think Fred Van Vliet is necessarily good enough, but we think pairing De'Aaron Fox with our young stars, we have Sangoon here, we have Amon Thomas on our team. They just played an amazing game in Boston where they hit a game winner when it was 112 to 112. Do you think De'Aaron Fox with the Houston Rockets team and Ime Udoka on that team, who's kind of been that team that's kind of quietly snuck up on everybody and could definitely have a chance to make the second round in the conference championship, depending on the health of Luca and Kyrie?
I think if I had to rank this one compared to the Spurs and Magic, I'd probably put it 3. But I do think like you're pairing him with a team that's competitive in the West. You have a young team. He would be more or less the veteran in this team because he was in the same draft as Jason Tatum. And he said, I mean, he hasn't had great postseason success, but he's gone toe to toe with the Warriors, and he's had some successful playoff rounds. So I think the Rockets would be a fine fit for him, but I'd rather see him paired with Wemby, and I'd rather see him paired with the Magic because I think that he'll have a higher ceiling there. With the Rockets, I think he wouldn't be the main star there, most likely.
Yeah, definitely not. But I do think the Rockets would give him the best chance to contend, though. If you don't think San Antonio can really get anyone else around you with Wemby, I just think the Rockets could have more to offer, and they do have a lot of young talent on that team, and that would probably be the best head coach that you would be playing for. In Ime Udoka.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also if the Kings are caring about their package that they receive, are they more interested in getting picks from the Rockets and maybe some younger talent, or the Spurs where you're going to get like Chris Paul and a couple of other guys that I don't think are going to move the needle for you? I think the Rockets could probably offer you the best package that you could get from any of these 3 teams.
Yeah, and then the other big one is Jimmy Butler. He's now officially suspended indefinitely. Miami did not want to give him a contract extension, so he's like, okay, if you don't want to pay me, I need to get traded to a team who's going to give me an extension stat. So can you see that Miami trading him, or do you think Pat Riley, with having an ego like him, where he is one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, may just be like, all right, I'm just gonna suspend you for the rest of the season and let you walk, because that's kind of what I think your value is at. Because if I can't get anything back for you, I'd rather just suspend you because you went against my ego here and then let you test free agency.
Yeah, I don't know how great that would be for the locker room. So I feel like they're going to probably trade him. My question is less about him being traded and more or less like where. He's 35 now. He is leaving his prime if he hasn't already. And it's like, who's going to take the risk on him? Like, the Sixers have taken a risk on him, it's burned them. You've had the Timberwolves take a risk on him, it's burned them. And then the Heat, I don't know if it's necessarily burned them if you look at the full picture, but now they're being burned at this point. So I guess you could say so. It's like, who's going to take the risk on him at this point? It's like, I've heard the Suns are interested. I don't think the Suns are going to have enough to offer him what he would want. And it's like, also, if you're looking for a contract extension, like, who's going to give you $40 million for the next 4 years when by the time it's done you're going to be 40 years old? Like, I just don't think he's going to get what he wants. So Pat Riley could very easily say, I'm not going to trade you, or better yet, I'll trade you to a team like the Wizards, who are just going to be terrible, and I'm not going to suffice to your trade demands. Like, trade you somewhere you don't want to go and have you suffer the next 4 months of basketball.
Yeah, and like landing spots for him would probably be either the Pelicans, um San Antonio if they miss out on De'Aaron Fox, but like the Pelicans could offer you Brandon Ingram, and then you'd have like Jimmy Butler, CJ McCollum on that team. Maybe Zion Williamson is part of that trade package and he wants to go to Miami. You think you can fix Zion there? And then the other option would be Golden State, because Steph Curry desperately needs a second star. And I think it'd be perfect to just get rid of Draymond Green, get his contract off the books. And if we're going to get rid of Clay, like we have to get rid of Draymond at this point because we've gotten rid of everyone else. We got rid of Kevin Durant, we got rid of Clay Thompson, we got rid of Jordan Poole, but no, Jordan Poole's balling out this year, is actually playing well, and then Draymond's just there yelling at people and kicking players in the nuts and pantsing them.
Yeah, I think the Warriors, if they're gonna at least, I know right now they're out of the play-in tournament, but they're still in the mix for it. Like, even if they don't go far with the Warriors, at least for the sake of the NBA, this would be a lot more interesting. Seeing him go, maybe you package Wiggins potentially also if you don't want to pair those two together. But the Warriors need something because they've been just flat dead in the water for the last 3 years. We're seeing Steph Curry, who's going to be 36, and he's not getting any younger. How many more years does he have? Like, go out and go all in now because ultimately, like, when he's gone, that's the greatest player you've ever had in your team. And whether or not you want to see him don another uniform or go out and win another ring, like, you got to go all in. Like, this is your franchise's greatest player. Go out with a bang. Don't be like the Lakers with Kobe. Go out there and go all in because ultimately, when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. And with the Warriors, do you think Steph Curry will be like Kobe was with the Lakers, or do you think this year he may ask for a trade? Because, Steve Kerr was asked about this, and this is my biggest problem with the Warriors is like they have one foot in one door and one foot out the other. And I feel like when that is the case, it's never gonna be a successful situation. But he was asked, like, so are you guys trying to win? Or what was the question essentially? He's like, it's not like we're not trying to win, but we also can't sacrifice our future to win now. It's like you're not going to have a future outside of Steph Curry. Sorry. Like, are you going to stick through this rebuild? We keep hearing about Jonathan Kaminga with the Golden State Warriors. Like, Klay Thompson's gone, Draymond Green's gone, and now you're just worried about your future, preserving assets, and you're wasting Steph Curry's potential where you could be trading away first round picks and other young talent to acquire a star and win now. Like, you need to be in win now mode if you have Steph Curry. Like, or else what's the point of having Steph on your team? Just to sell tickets and for old time's sake? Like, no, Steph Curry needs to be thinking about legacy and maybe seeing if he can get a fifth or a sixth ring here. So I feel like if that's kind of the mentality with the Warriors, Steph Curry should be gone next season. And maybe you spice up the trade deadline where you have a quiet trade. And I threw this out there before the show, but what about a trade for Steph Curry? You swap him for Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is good enough where he'll play well in the regular season. He manages his own team, and then you trade away one, two, three, four, five first round picks, give up your future. You can also package in like Christian Braun. If you're so worried about our young players and future assets in our future, we'll give you Christian Braun or Russell Westbrook there for the Warriors, and you can have fun with your rebuild and Draymond Green just being there on his own, trying to play with Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray. So I feel like if you trade Steph Curry, that's like a reasonable destination outside of the Lakers, which like I just don't want to see Steph Curry in a Lakers uniform. That'd make me sick.
Yeah, that'd make me sick too. The Nuggets make the most sense because he gets paired with a superstar. He he doesn't need to be the top star, and you've seen him with Kevin Durant take a step back to watch the team succeed. I think with the Nuggets, you have a great coach, you have a great star, you have the best player in the league at this point with Nikola Jokic, and then you'll essentially be his sidekick. So you go out there. I think with the Nuggets with Steph Curry, they could probably win 2 rings there pretty comfortably. That would solidify Joker's legacy. That would obviously solidify Steph's, who I think most panels would agree is probably a top 10 player of all time. If you're really thinking about it, especially with the impact that he's had, like all he needs is one more ring for people to indistinguishably cannot argue him being a top 10 player. And then with that 6th ring, like he's a top 5 player of all time. If you could probably put them there already if you want to. But yeah, I want to see him contending somewhere with another superstar. And that makes the most sense, especially because Jamal Murray is an excellent point guard. And I think he would continue kind of on the same trajectory that the Warriors are already on. And now you have assets. Now you have Christian Braun. Now you have first round picks. Like, if that's what the Warriors want to do, I feel like they'll be better off in the long run with Jamal Murray than with Steph, who's aging and is just looking to ring chase at this point.
Yeah, and same with Jokic. He's getting older here, so I feel like if you trade, you could definitely have like a back-to-back finals appearance if you have Steph and Jokic on the same team. Especially with Steph, like not only can he take a step back, as I feel like he should be a number two at this point because he's too old to be carrying a team unless he has a really good 1B on his team. But like all the play teams who have won the NBA finals have two really good players, or they have two really good second stars like Milwaukee did when they won the finals. The Mavericks had Luka and Kyrie. Celtics had Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown there. Warriors had Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. LeBron always had D Wade, Kyrie, and Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. So I feel like it would be a good fit, especially with Michael Porter having the best year of his career so far this season, and Aaron Gordon still there.
Yeah, I agree. Nuggets would be the perfect fit. I don't love the Lakers because they have the same problem that the Warriors have. LeBron is 40. He's clearly almost out the door. And then you have Anthony Davis, who's always banged up. Like, the Lakers are just a better version of what the Warriors are right now, which are a team that is getting older, a team that, I mean, maybe he wins a ring with the Lakers, but I don't even think he does that at that point. Like, why would you want to pair him with a 40, soon to be 41-year-old superstar when he could be paired with the Nuggets, who I think are going to be better off overall? And they make the most sense out of all the teams that would be trading for him.
Yeah, and then the last real player, some people just threw out like I don't know, Kevin Durant maybe going back to the Thunder. The Thunder being like maybe Chet Holmgren's going to be like Kristaps Porzingis or Joel Embiid, where he's injured all the time and he might not stay healthy. And then some people threw out like, oh, what if Kevin Durant goes home to Oklahoma City, and then you pair him with SGA this year, and then you have one last hurrah. But like for me, if I'm looking at that, why would I trade away 10 years of Chet Holmgren's prime for Kevin Durant for maybe 2 years? Like I feel like that's kind of an out of touch take because like either the Thunder are stupid or you don't watch basketball because Kevin Durant hasn't been himself over the past few years. Got swept by the Timberwolves, got swept by the Celtics, and seems like he's always dealing with an injury.
Yeah, I would not make that move if I'm the Thunder. The Suns, I do think need to make a move, but I don't think it's trading Kevin Durant. I think if you're not going to trade Kevin Durant, then maybe you trade Bradley Beal. But Kevin Durant, like, just like for anybody trading for Jimmy Butler, like it's similar issues, but I think worse because he's older. Like Kevin Durant is 37 years old. He's already won his titles. He's also burned multiple situations that he's been at, i.e., the Nets situation. That was a disaster. The Warrior situation, he burned that. That was a disaster. So like I think that like whoever trades for Kevin Durant, like you're mortgaging your future for a guy who has proven not to be loyal and has proven for a guy that is also fragile at this point because he's been in the league since 2007. He got drafted by the Supersonics. Let's not forget that. He played for the Supersonics, a team that hasn't existed in how long? 17 seasons? Like, no, don't trade for Kevin. Kevin Durant is fine on the Suns. If the Suns want to make a move for Kevin Durant, then trade Bradley Beal. But like trading for Kevin Durant, if you're any other team, you're stupid, frankly.
Yeah, no, unless it's like the Lakers, It's
Well,
like
the Lakers are always
Anthony
done.
Davis and LeBron James. Like if they trade like Austin Reeves and someone else for Kevin Durant, like whatever. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I don't love it. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the Suns are just gonna they're gonna try to swing for Jimmy Butler, but I don't think Jimmy Butler is gonna solve the Suns' problems either.
Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty much the rundown, the trade deadline. There's some other plays like Kyle Kuzma, Zach Levine, who will be out there. But I am curious to react to those trades. Sometimes the NBA trade deadline's made to be a whole lot of nothing, but I feel like this year should be more interesting than last year. No really big stars moved. Maybe the Celtics place a trade too. Brad Stevens has stayed pretty active. The team's kind of in a rut, so maybe he places a trade this year. Maybe we flip Porzingis for someone else because their record with Porzingis hasn't been that great, than as good as it is without him. So maybe the Celtics looks to move on from him. But yeah, looking forward to recapping the NBA deadline next Thursday. Should be a fun one though.
Yeah, no doubt. And now, we previewed the trade deadline potentially for this upcoming week. Talked a little bit about the Pro Bowls. We have time a little bit to talk about the 2025 NFL free agents if we want to talk about that, or we could talk about it next week. It's up to you. And then the other thing to talk about would be the top five. Do you want to squeeze in this talk about the free agents here? I have the Pro Football Focus's NFL top 100 free agent rankings in front of me. Um,
Yeah, why don't we do it next week with the trade deadline?
okay, we'll fill that in then. So, I mean, like we mentioned here, we talked about the Pro Bowl. We talked about some of the snubs here. We talked about the trade deadline. Will Steph Curry potentially be traded to the Nuggets at some point in his career? One last thing to talk about before the show does conclude, though. Get the documents ready. That's right. Last episode, we talked about the worst of the conference championship series. Now, here, we open the documents. Glass half full, Marcus Cedrus says, who are the top five according to the Brickyard?
Yeah, the top five in the NFL this week, as of right now, according to the Brickyard. This is going to be one of the best lists all season. And at number five, we have a guy who's not even in the playoffs right now. He's just so dominant that it doesn't even matter because there are two people that you can bet against in sports to beat Patrick Mahomes. One of them is retired. His name is Tom Brady, but one of them is named Joe Burrow. And America quickly realized on Sunday that holy shit, Josh Allen will never beat Patrick Mahomes. Like we've said on this show, I've never been a believer in the Bills. Never thought they could do it. It just never felt right. And then Cincinnati is the only team to not only beat them, but they pushed them again the second time they faced them, and ended up losing that game. But Joe Burrow has been the only person to stand toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs and beat him. No one else can say that in the NFL. There's only one other person, and it's Tom Brady, and he's retired. So if you're one of these NFL fans crying like, "Oh, I can't believe the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl again, and I have to see history be made on Sunday if the Chiefs win," it would be so horrible to see a dynasty unfold and the greatest team potentially ever take place in my era and generation. What a burden I have to deal with. But, you should be the biggest Joe Burrow fan in the world. And you should be on the Bengals' ass to make this the best possible roster because he's now proven he's the only one who can do it, which is why he is at number five. So at number five, Joe Burrow. At number four, the NFL media, and it's not for anything spectacular. It's actually completely the opposite. It's how predictably wrong they are about every single take all season. Josh Allen has three good games in the middle of the year. Oh my God. he's the MVP. When it's clearly Saquon Barkley this season, if you paid attention to last year, which should definitely come into context for the NFL MVP award, and if you paid attention to this year, how Saquon Barkley changed that team and affected him, and then, oh yeah, the Bills couldn't possibly make history and lose 4 straight times when they've already made history for losing before. Like, this wouldn't be the first time that this team makes history for losing. You lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. That is a talent. And now you've lost 4 straight times to the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Allen is the only quarterback to ever do that. And the media consistently like, this is the year that they're going to beat them. We think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to go out there and get it done, and then just completely missing time after time after time. The media thought the Jets were going to go to the Super Bowl this year. That was one of the hot teams that people are like, I don't know, I think the Jets are a dark horse. So for how repeatedly wrong the media have been, it's a special talent because all it takes is basic observation to predict some of these things. And clearly that's not a skill when you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to talk about a sport. Okay, I guess there's really no standards. You have a piece of paper that say I graduated or you have CTE. Those are the qualifications. So at number 4, the media. At number 3, and typically when we think of scams, we think of what, old people getting scammed. You pick up their phone, hello, it's like, I need money, please send it. Or you think of Jordan Belfort scamming seniors out of their say, if you buy this penny stock, I can fix your retirement savings because you don't have any right now, and this penny stock's going to the moon. Then Jordan Belfort makes a ton of money. People scamming senior citizens out of their social security and pension plans. Well, the complete opposite just happened. A senior citizen just scammed an NFL team. Pete Carroll going to the Raiders. I mean, Pete Carroll deserves to be on the top 5 this list because he turned the tables. He's like, you know what? I'm going to step up for the old people here. Give us some representation. I'm sick of us getting scammed. So, you know what? 73 years old. I think I'd make a great NFL head coach. It's clearly just his last paycheck before heading into retirement. What difference is Pete Carroll going to make for this team? Guy still listens to Macklemore. What is he going to do now? He's going to bust out another artist. We're going to start listening to Lil Dicky now because he's like, I'm modern. I just found Lil Dicky. It's when your mom like called you and she's like, "Do you know Jelly Roll?" Like, yes, Jelly Roll blew up 3 years ago. That's like where Pete Carroll is as far as his status as an NFL coach, and it's a complete rebuild. Makes no sense, but Pete Carroll went out there and got a check. So honestly, for him being able to convince the Raiders to hire him, great job, Pete Carroll. At number 3, Pete Carroll. At number 2, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you're in the Super Bowl right now, and you go out there, you rebound from that Super Bowl hangover. Now you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you go out there, have Jalen Hurts on your team, who has been one of the best playoff performing quarterbacks over the past few years, where he's now gotten to 2 Super Bowls. You go out there and get Saquon Barkley, and then your head coach, too, feel like gets a lot of unnecessary hate last season. Speaking of number 4, like the media was ready to bury Nick Sirianni last year, but what does he do? He hires um Kellen Moore, who's kind of been like an outcast coordinator. He was fine in Dallas, never really got a shot in San Diego or LA with the Chargers. And now this season, Kellen Moore is like a coordinator that people were considering hiring. His name was at least floated out there as far as interviews. Vic Fangio was kind of at his wits end with the Miami Dolphins, but Nick Sirianni took in both of those. His job as head coach is to coach the other coaches, and he has now established Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. People are talking about Vic Fangio's great play calling, and then you create a monster in Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, which has led you to the Super Bowl berth. I mean, Philadelphia doesn't get at number 2 often, but you are in the Super Bowl right now. You have the best running back of the past decade if he wins a Super Bowl this year. Potential to win Super Bowl MVP because he's probably going to have to rush for 200 yards. So at number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles, especially since you finessed the Titans for trading AJ Brown for Traylon Burks. How did that trade work out? So number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then at number 1, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Do we really need to go into why the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1? Not only are they the first team to get to 3 Super Bowls, where most teams miss the playoffs after back to back Super Bowls. They have the potential to be the first team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. You now have Patrick Mahomes, who's the first quarterback to ever beat another quarterback 4 times in a row in the playoffs. Then you have Andy Reid there, and then people seemingly just won't hire Steve Spagnuolo, even though the Chiefs consistently have some of the best defensive game plans, are one of the best defensive teams in the league. So at number one, have the Kansas City Chiefs with a chance to three-peat. I feel like people don't need to hear why. They just need to accept that they are the best team in football, and they're the number one, according to the Brickyard.
Fuck yeah. The top five, according to Brickyard, the media was not spared. Josh Allen was not spared. Nobody spared in the top five. And we'll be here to break it all down this upcoming week as well. Top five and worst top five of the Pro Bowl when we're here to preview that and recap accordingly here. Outside of that, message of all, always stay true with the Brickyard here. Stay brick.
Stay brick.
Mm, lovely.
Pete Carroll, the scammer.
Yeah, that was nuts. Yeah, Pete Carroll, man. 3 years.